The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus Wellington's penthouse office like accusations he'd grown tired of hearing. Another evening, another charity gala invitation discarded in his trash, another carefully orchestrated introduction to some socialite's daughter who saw dollar signs instead of the man behind them. At 34, he'd built an empire worth $12 billion, but couldn't buy himself one genuine moment of human connection. The loneliness sat in his chest like a stone, growing heavier with each passing year. Marcus had sworn off love after the third woman tried to secretly record their intimate conversations for a tell-all book deal. Trust had become as foreign to him as poverty once was. Every smile felt calculated, every laugh rehearsed, every "I love you" whispered with the same hollow ring as a cash register. He'd built walls so high around his heart that even he'd forgotten what it felt like to care about someone without wondering what they wanted from him. But sometimes the universe has a way of demolishing even the strongest fortresses with the gentlest touch. It happened on a Tuesday morning that started like any other. Marcus was reviewing quarterly reports in the back seat of his Bentley when traffic ground to a halt on Fifth Avenue. His driver, James, apologized for the delay, but Marcus barely heard him. He was too busy watching a young woman across the street struggling with a broken stroller wheel while trying to shield a crying baby from the drizzle. She couldn't have been more than 25, dressed in worn jeans and a faded sweater that had seen better years. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore no makeup to hide the exhaustion etched around her eyes. What struck Marcus wasn't her appearance, though it was the way she spoke to the baby in her arms, her voice a gentle melody of comfort despite her obvious frustration with the broken stroller. "It's okay, sweet pea," she whispered, kissing the infant's forehead. "Mama will figure this out, we always do, don't we?" Marcus found himself leaning forward, mesmerized by this small tableau of tenderness playing out in the middle of Manhattan's chaos. The woman, he guessed her name might be Sir or maybe Emma, continued trying to fix the stroller with one hand while bouncing the baby with the other. Passers-by hurried past without a glance, too consumed with their own lives to notice her struggle. Without thinking, Marcus opened the car door. "Sir?" James called after him, but Marcus was already crossing the street, dodging honking taxis and impatient pedestrians. "Excuse me," he said, approaching the woman. "I couldn't help but notice you're having some trouble. Would you like some help?" She looked up, startled. Her eyes were the color of honey mixed with coffee, warm and genuine in a way that made Marcus's chest tighten. For a moment, she just stared at him, taking in his expensive suit, his perfectly styled hair, the way he carried himself like someone accustomed to boardrooms and galas. "Oh, thank you, but I can manage," she said, her voice soft but proud. "The wheel just got stuck on something." It happened sometimes. Marcus knelt down beside the stroller, ignoring the fact that his $1,000 pants were now touching wet pavement. "I'm Marcus," he said, working at the jammed wheel. "And this little one is?" "This is Lily," the woman replied, her initial wariness melting slightly. "She's 8 months old. And I'm Clara." Clara. The name fit her perfectly, clear, simple, beautiful without trying to be. "There we go," Marcus said, freeing the wheel with a satisfying click. He stood up, dusting off his hands. "Good as new." "Thank you so much," Clara said, genuine gratitude shining in her eyes. "You didn't have to do that." "Your suit, it's probably worth more than my rent." Marcus laughed, surprised by her directness. "It's just fabric. Besides, I have about 30 more just like it." The moment the words left his mouth, he regretted them. He watched Clara's expression shift, that familiar look of recognition crossing her features. She was putting together the pieces of the expensive clothes, the way he spoke about money, the Bentley idling across the street with the driver waiting patiently. "You're him," she said quietly. "Marcus Wellington. I've seen you in the papers." Marcus braced himself for what always came next at a sudden personality change, the calculated smile, the not-so-subtle hints about how difficult life was and how a small loan or investment opportunity might change everything. Instead, Clara took a step back. "Well, thank you again for your help, Mr. Wellington. We should get going. Lily needs her nap." She began pushing the stroller away, and Marcus found himself following. "Wait," he called out. Would you like to get coffee sometime? I know a place nearby that's very baby-friendly." Clara stopped and turned around, studying his face with those honest eyes. "Why?" The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean, why?" "I mean, why would someone like you want to have coffee with someone like me? We live in completely different worlds." Marcus opened his mouth to give her some smooth line about being interested in getting to know her better, but something about Clara's straightforward gaze made him want to tell the truth instead. "Because in the last 5 minutes, you're the first person I've met in years who didn't immediately start calculating what I might be worth to them. You thanked me for helping and tried to leave. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Clara shifted Lily to her other hip, considering his words. "Mr. Wellington, Marcus, please." "Marcus," she said, testing the name. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't date." "Why not?" "Because I have more important things to focus on." She gestured to Lily, who was now reaching for Clara's hair with chubby fingers. "This little girl is my whole world." "Her father," Clara's voice caught slightly. "He decided he wasn't ready for fatherhood when I was 7 months pregnant. Said he had dreams bigger than being tied down to a baby. So it's just us now, and I'm okay with that." Marcus felt something twist in his chest, anger at a man he'd never met, and admiration for the woman standing in front of him who'd clearly been through hell but still spoke with such strength. "I wasn't asking for a date," he said gently. "I was asking for coffee. 2 people, having a conversation, and if Lily gets fussy, we'll leave. No pressure. No expectations." Clara looked at him for a long moment, then down at Lily, who was babbling happily and reaching toward Marcus with tiny hands. "She likes you," Clara observed. "She's usually shy around strangers." "Smart kid. She probably senses I'm harmless." Marcus smiled at Lily, who giggled in response. "What do you say? 1 coffee. If I turn out to be a boring billionaire copyright, you never have to see me again." Despite herself, Clara smiled. 1 coffee. They went to a small cafe copyright 3 blocks away, nothing fancy or exclusive, just good coffee and comfortable chairs. Marcus insisted on paying, which led to their first minor argument. "I can buy my own coffee," Clara said firmly. "I'm sure you can. But I invited you, so I'm paying." "It's not charity, it's manners." Clara looked like she wanted to argue further, but Lily chose that moment to start fussing, and the conversation shifted to finding a quiet corner where they could sit without disturbing other customers. Marcus watched, fascinated, as Clara transformed into what he could only describe as a magician. She produced toys from seemingly nowhere, made funny faces that had Lily giggling, and somehow managed to drink her coffee while keeping the baby entertained. It was like watching a master class in multitasking. "How do you do it?" he asked. "Do what?" "All of this. Work, take care of her, manage everything on your own." Clara shrugged. "You just do what you have to do." "Lily didn't ask to be born, and she deserves the best life I can give her. Some days are harder than others, but every morning when she wakes up and smiles at me." Clara's whole face softened. "It makes everything worth it." Marcus found himself leaning forward, genuinely interested in a way he hadn't been in years. "What do you do for work?" "I clean offices at night, a cleaning service downtown. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills, and I can work while Lily sleeps. My neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez watches her for a few hours when I need to run errands during the day." "That must be exhausting." "It is," Clara admitted, "but it's temporary. I'm taking online classes, business administration, slowly, because I can only afford 1 class at a time. But I'm getting there. Someday I want to open my own cleaning business, be my own boss, set my own hours, maybe even provide jobs for other single mothers who need flexible work." Marcus sat back, struck by the determination in her voice. Here was someone with a real plan, real dreams that had nothing to do with finding a rich man to solve her problems. Clara was solving them herself, one small step at a time. They talked for 2 hours. Marcus learned that Clara had grown up in foster care, bouncing between homes until she aged out of the system at 18. She'd put herself through community college while working 2 jobs, had met Lily's father at a coffee shop where he was writing what he claimed would be the next great American novel. She'd believed in his dreams, supported him through his struggles, only to have him abandon her when she needed him most. "I don't regret it," she said, stroking Lily's hair as the baby dozed in her arms. "If I hadn't met David, I wouldn't have Lily, and she's the best thing that's ever happened to me." Marcus found himself sharing things he'd never told anyone about the loneliness of success, the way money changed every relationship, the exhaustion of never knowing if someone liked him or his bank account. Clara listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions that showed she was really hearing him. "It must be hard," she said when he finished describing his last disastrous relationship, "not being able to trust anyone's motives." "It is, but I've learned to live with it." "That's not living," Clara said gently. "That's just existing. There's a difference." Her words hit him like a physical blow, not because they were harsh, but because they were true. When they finally parted ways, Marcus found himself walking back to his car in a daze. He'd expected to never see Clara again. A1 coffee, as promised. Instead, he found himself thinking about her for the rest of the week. It started small. He began taking different routes to work, hoping to catch a glimpse of her with Lily. He found himself wondering if she was eating enough, if Lily was healthy, if Clara was managing to get any sleeps between work and classes. He donated anonymously to several charities that supported single mothers, telling himself it wasn't about Clara specifically, just a general desire to help. He was lying to himself, and he knew it. 2 weeks later, he saw her again. This time, she was coming out of a grocery store, counting bills carefully before putting her wallet away. Lily was bundled up in a coat that was clearly second-hand but clean and warm. Clara looked tired, more tired than before. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. "Clara." She turned, surprised. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" "I live nearby," he lied smoothly. He'd actually driven 20 minutes out of his way after his driver mentioned seeing her in the neighborhood. "How are you?" "How's Lily?" "We're good," Clara said. But Marcus noticed the slight tremor in her voice. "Just picking up some groceries." Lily reached for Marcus the moment she saw him, babbling excitedly. Without thinking, he held out his arms, and Clara passed her over. The baby immediately grabbed his tie, trying to put it in her mouth. "She remembers you," Clara said, sounding surprised. "Good memory runs in smart families," Marcus said, making a silly face that had Lily giggling. Over the baby's head, he studied Clara's face. She looked pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. "Are you feeling alright?" "Just tired." "Lily's been teething, so she's not sleeping well, which means I'm not sleeping well." Clara reached for her daughter, but Marcus stepped back slightly. "Why don't you let me carry her for a bit? You look like you could use a break." "I'm fine, Clara." Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "When's the last time you ate a real meal? Not something grabbed between classes or while Lily was napping, but an actual meal where you sat down and focused on eating." Clara opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. The silence stretched between them. "That's what I thought," Marcus said. "Come on, there's a family restaurant around the corner. My treat, and before you argue, it's not charity." Friends buy each other meals all the time. We're friends? The question was asked so softly, with such vulnerability, that Marcus felt his heart crack a little. "I'd like to be," he said honestly. "If you'll let me." Dinner became a weekly tradition. Marcus would accidentally run into Clara and Lily on Tuesday evenings, always near the same grocery store, always with an invitation to grab a bite to eat. Clara protested less each time, and Marcus began to see glimpses of the woman she might be if she wasn't carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was funny, he discovered, with a dry sense of humor that caught him off guard. She was incredibly well-read despite never having had the privilege of a fancy education. She could discuss everything from philosophy to pop culture with equal intelligence, and she loved Lily with a fierce protectiveness that both humbled and inspired him. Marcus found himself looking forward to these dinners more than any business meeting or social event. He rearranged his schedule around them, turned down invitations to galas and charity functions, ignored calls from women his friends insisted he should meet. None of them interested him anymore. How could they, when he'd experienced what it felt like to have a real conversation with someone who cared about his thoughts rather than his portfolio? The shift in their relationship was gradual, like watching the sun rise, imperceptible moment by moment, but undeniable when you look back at where you'd started. Marcus began bringing small gifts for Lily, nothing expensive, just books or toys he thought she'd enjoy. Clara would protest, but she never made him take them back, especially when she saw how happy they made her daughter. "You're spoiling her," Clara said one evening as Lily chewed contentedly on a new teething ring Marcus had brought. "She's a baby. Babies are supposed to be spoiled a little by their parents, not by." Clara trailed off, realizing she didn't know how to categorize what Marcus was to them. "Not by their friends?" Marcus suggested gently. Clara nodded, but something in her expression suggested the word friend wasn't quite fitting anymore. The first crack in Clara's armor came during their 8th dinner together. Lily had been fussy all evening, crying despite Clara's best efforts to comfort her. Other diners were starting to stare, and Clara's cheeks were flushed with embarrassment. "I should take her home," she said, standing up with Lily in her arms. "Hey," Marcus said, standing as well. "What if we got the food to go? We could eat at your place, and Lily might be more comfortable in familiar surroundings." Clara hesitated. She'd never invited Marcus to her apartment. It wasn't that she was ashamed of where she lived. Exactly. But there was a difference between having coffee with someone and letting them see how you really lived. "You don't want to see my place," she said finally. "It's not exactly penthouse material." "Clara, I don't care if you live in a cardboard box. I just want to spend time with you and Lily. Location is irrelevant." 30 minutes later, Marcus was sitting on Clara's second-hand couch in her tiny one-bedroom apartment, sharing Chinese takeout while Lily played contentedly on a blanket on the floor. The apartment was small, but it was clean and filled with warmth. Pictures of Lily covered every surface, and children's books were stacked neatly in every corner. "It's not much," Clara said, following his gaze around the room. "It's perfect," Marcus said, and meant it. "It feels like a home." "When's the last time you felt at home somewhere?" The question caught Marcus off guard. He thought about his penthouse with its museum-quality art and furniture that looked beautiful but felt cold. When had he last felt the kind of contentment he felt right now, sitting on a couch that,